So Danny, we're sitting here halfway through the Rainbow Cup, looking back at our first 3 games against Benetton and the 2 wins against Edinburgh. How do you think we've done?
Obviously, the Benetton game was a major disappointment for all concerned. I think it was a little bit of a perfect storm. We didn't kind of turn up in the right mindset, I don't think, and as a group we've addressed that and talked about that. When you're not quite in the right mind frame or what we call warrior mindset, then that kind of was a big blow that got worse, and we got looser in the game, and we didn't play well. So to bounce back in the manner that we did, I think was really pleasing. We talked about the fact that every team has a bombshell game, and that was ours. And what I mean by a bombshell game is a game that you kind of don't see coming, you don't perform well, and you get what you deserve, and we got what we deserved that day. But the mark of a team is how they respond, and the mark of a group. We showed very, very quickly how we responded with a brilliant home win here against Edinburgh to win the 1872 Cup, first time for 3 or 4 years, or whatever it's been. So that was really pleasing to get that back to Glasgow and repay our supporters off the back of a disappointing day against Treviso. And then to back it up with 8 or 9 changes that we made to the team to go and play Edinburgh away from home, and to do the double on Edinburgh was again a mark of the group, a mark of our leadership, I think, in terms of our leaders in our group who really got the best out of our playing group, and to go on and another mini achievement again. I think first time since 2012, or 13 or something like that, which is a long time without doing the double over Edinburgh. So I think that was a very satisfying pair of results that kind of puts a little bit back on track after a disappointing game against Treviso. What that's done is it's given us an opportunity in this competition. Our stance hasn't really changed. We still will look at different combinations and use this as an opportunity to do so, whilst trying to win the last 2 games to give ourselves a chance to progress.
And who have been the standout performers for you from those first 3 games?
A number of players, I think, doubled up from a bad performance straight into a good. I mean, let's take, for example, Kyle Staines has been outstanding in the last 2 games, and Kyle was 14 months out with injury. His first game back was Treviso, which was a little bit rusty, and we wouldn't expect anything less. But how quickly did he then become one of the standout players in both games? I think his form was outstanding. But number of young players, Ross Thompson again at 10, bounced back from maybe not his better game against Treviso to 2 really good performances against Edinburgh. We obviously gave the likes of Rory Darge and Tom Lambert some opportunity, and both players really stood out for me. Great future warriors. Tom, very young academy loosehead prop going against WP Nell, held his own after a lot of work here over a lot of months. Some good individual work from Gary Strain, who's worked with him as well. And then Rory Darge, who really took his opportunity. Came from Edinburgh to play against Edinburgh in his first start. Quite a occasion for him, and I thought he was a standout as well. But that's just naming a few. If I'm honest, I think the majority of our squad in both games really put their hands up and performed well without calling out too many individuals. It was, for me, the collective approach. There was a lot of emotion going into both games. A bounce back from Treviso, Xander's 100th game, we built that up. We built the derby up, and then the week after, Rob Harley's 250th, which what an occasion, what an opportunity for him to go out in a derby, to win the derby, and we spoke to the group and said, we need to make sure that this guy remembers this day with a good performance, and a performance is worthy of such an achievement, and the boys did that. So I know he was over the moon, and like I said, a good balance between some experienced boys and some younger boys, and 2 good results.
And you mentioned a few younger guys there and a few guys from the academy. At the start of the regular Pro 14 season, you mentioned that this season will be a lot about bringing through young talent. How do you think that project's gone? Yeah,
look, I mean, it was a little bit of, we had an opportunity with the way the season was panning out. It was very clear that when we started this season, it was going to be like no other season. For me, in my first year at the club, it wasn't quite the backdrop that I was looking for in terms of, a COVID kind of a pandemic and the lockdown that comes with that, and then all the issues that you have in terms of the majority of your squad being away from you, with Scotland for huge chunks of the year due to the bubble, which is understandable, but gave us in Scotland huge headaches. So that meant that looking at young players was paramount, because we had an opportunity to say, okay, well, if our best players aren't going to be available to us, let's look at some younger players. That probably, after I looked at some players I've never worked with before early in the season and made some early decisions, And then we started to invest in some of our younger boys a bit more, the likes of Ross Thompson. The list goes on. I've listed them off a number of times, but I think there's a good 6 or 7 players that this year have had plenty of grounding and blooding in this competition, and that will stand us in great stead for the future. It's had its ups and downs this year, but like I said, it will certainly stand us in good stead for the future.
And then looking ahead, we've got 2 more games in the Rainbow Cup. First, we've got Dragons away at Cardiff City Stadium, and then we've got Leinster here at Scotstoun. How are the squad feeling about those 2 final games?
Excited. Like I said, we've got an opportunity now. Slightly different combinations will go out into the Dragons game, but a side that I think is strong, and I think will need to be strong to beat the Dragons. Dragons are a side that have progressed really well this year. They've had their players available to them, the majority. They've lost 1 or 2 to Wales for the bubble periods, either side of Christmas, but not for huge chunks of time have they lost huge numbers. So that's been to their advantage because they've managed to grow their combinations this year. And we played them twice, 2 very narrow loss here, last kind of kick of the game that went against us, and then we got beaten down there as well. So we certainly want to go there and put that record straight if we can, but we know the challenge is a big one. And then Leinster, well, it doesn't get any bigger than Leinster. If we can beat the Dragons, then it may all come down to the Leinster game, depending on other results, which may give us a chance to go to a final. Now, this year, if we've qualified for Europe, if we won the 1872 Cup, done the double against Edinburgh, and then we were fortunate enough to make a final, all of a sudden, there's a fair few achievements in that year that have probably changed the outlook a little bit, although we all know there's still plenty to do.